Hey everyone, we're here with another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Eggert. Today's guest helps couples understand the complex world of finance and provides guidance to solidify their financial legacy. I'm excited to share with you my friend, Brian Adamek. Brian, welcome to the show.
Aaron, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We were just talking right before we started recording. This is your first time on a podcast, and I'm pumped about that.
Yeah, a little nervous. I don't want to screw this up.
Oh, you're not going to screw anything. We're just a couple of people talking. Before I dig into our conversation a little bit, if you would please share with me your pronouns.
He, him.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So you are a Minnesota guy. I'm really excited to get into the college stuff with you. So I don't want to jump ahead too much because you did some pretty cool stuff in college. However, you grew up in the South Metro, and where'd you go to high school?
I went to Rosemont High School. I grew up in Inver Grove. We were kind of right on the border of Inver Grove, Egan, Rosemont. So I went to Rosemont schools and went to Rosemont High School.
Yeah. What was your family dynamic growing up?
My mom from her previous marriage, I have my half sister, Jen. And then from my parents, I have a brother and a sister. So I am the youngest of four.
What was, do you guys all get along?
Yeah, we did. I mean, like brothers and sisters do, pretty competitive but I mean, we would, play together outside and, we had our fights, but for the most part, we did get along, and it was actually a really good childhood. Just, great parents that parented me really well. And, but also just, I don't know, a loving household. So,
yeah. Did you, I think your dad was in the financial world, right? So I think that probably had a little bit of an impact on what you do now. But what did your parents do?
Yeah, in the financial part of my dad's side actually was earlier in life and later in life, and I'll explain that. So, cool. My mom worked for many years at Blue Cross Blue Shield on like the administrative side. So she did that most of her career. And my dad was early in his career was in accounting, and then kind of in the 90s and 2000 got into like the software sales part of it, software consulting piece of it. And really, actually, it was in like my high school years that's when the dot-com crash happened, and he ended up losing his job. And I remember he was doing a lot of like kind of temp work, and kind of money was a little, we'll say, scarce. I remember my mom taking a second job at Cracker Barrel, and I remember the first time that she told us that she was not going to be home every night, and that was pretty impactful. But and so my dad was doing some contract work for many years, and then he was in his late 50s, and he, I don't know, didn't feel like he was maybe getting a fair chance. And so then he bought the tax practice actually when I was in college. And so the whole finance piece, although we had conversations around it, didn't necessarily come from my dad's career, or some other moments that I could share that I kind of triggered that. And it relates. Go ahead.
Do you think that I get tones of work ethic here, right? So I always ask and think about that nature versus nurture. And I think it works in magical ways now, regardless of if you're in a very highly entrepreneurial family, or if you're in a family not much different than, the family I grew up in, which was not very entrepreneurial, but the work ethic was through the roof. It sounds to me like it's a little bit more like the latter, and then your family just figured it out.
Yeah, very much so. Both my parents grew up on farms growing up. So I think that's probably a big part of it. And it was kind of always the mentality through the household. Like, I wouldn't say like no excuses, but maybe that's part of sports too. But like, you need to work hard for things. And so you saw that through my parents, just through their work ethic and just even how they would care for us and whatnot. But But
Yeah.
they definitely were good role models in that sense.
Yeah. And so you alluded to sports, and I know sports has played a huge role in your life, all the way from when you were a kid through college. So what was your first love when it came to sports? Like me, I was baseball. Like I loved
Yeah.
baseball. I loved collecting baseball cards. But then as I got older, I transitioned out of that. What was your first love from when it came to sports?
Gosh, I'd have to say it probably was even football. And that's
Was it?
my first love today. I mean, I played every sport growing up, soccer, baseball, football, track. I was trying everything but hockey. That was too
Mm,
expensive. We couldn't do hockey.
yeah.
And I remember still in the third grade when we started playing football, I still actually remember showing up when they'd fit you for pads. It's one of those kind of like vivid memories. And it was just something that I really enjoyed and something that I was pretty good at. All along it has been football, but I like any sport. I like being competitive. So I mean, I get into like anything and everything. I'll watch anything, and I did some coaching after college too. But it was
Yeah.
definitely football.
Yeah. What was the so you went to St. John's for college and you did play football at St. John's. What was the I have some questions about John Gallardi that I think anybody that I know that played football at St. John's I want to ask. So I just want to get different perspectives on the impact
Yeah.
that he had on individuals' lives. But what was the recruiting process? What was your like going your first time walking on St. John's campus? Just that, from a football perspective, that place is like, that's the Notre Dame of Minnesota, right? So it's
Yeah.
just a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my dad went to St. John's, and
Mm,
he didn't play football, but we'd go up there for homecoming, just about every year, and we'd go to the football game. So I just remember early on being like, "Oh, this is cool, this is fun." But then, I was pretty good in high school. I played linebacker, so I'm very undersized, like linebacker, and so I got some looks at like D2 Winona and like Concordia St. Paul and so a few others, and
mhm.
I did some other D3 visits and whatnot. And um, I didn't know any better, so I kind of expected them all to look and feel like St. John's. And I was like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting. And so then I got recruited by St. John's. And even from that first recruiting visit, it was the now head coach Gary Flashing that recruited me, but brought me into John Gallardi's office, and he at that time he wasn't even talking football. It'd be anything that was of interest, and he just really from like day one just treated you with respect, and like he was already a famous coach at that point, and you're just like, so it even from my very first experience, like shaking hands with him, he just, I don't know, he made you feel like you were valued, and he was untouchable, I guess is how I'd describe it. And then going into my college career, you actually see a lot of the coaching now is what it looked like, whatever, 30-40 years ago. So some people might be familiar with, like, we didn't tackle at all in
Mm,
practice, and that was abnormal then, because we wanted to minimize injuries, all types of injuries, head injuries, whatever. So I mean, there's the coaching philosophy that like a lot of people are familiar with, but like some of the other stuff, like you know that has stayed with me is like he would tell us to, like, if respect where you're at, respect the field, respect the campus. So like if you see a piece of trash, like pick it up.
mm,
And so you would
mm,
see John Gallardi walking by himself, and he would pick up a piece of trash and throw it away. And so like, we had massive football teams. There was what, a couple hundred kids on the team.
yeah.
And so like they kind of like spread like wildfire just as far as like culture. But from that to like when we go up to the cafeteria, he would say like, just make sure to thank them. And so
Mm,
like, just little things to that. I remember we were in class for Thanksgiving, and we all went home for the day if we could, or if you lived around. And I just remember him saying like, yeah, and tell your mom, thanks for making dinner, for all that like effort that she's put in. And so some of those things that are just like, okay, like he gets at like, football is very important to what we do, but it's more of the culture and he'd always say his best players were always are the nicest players. And so like, I could tell you 100 stories, but like I'll tell you a short one is my very first day walking on as a freshman. They sent a few freshmen at that time. Like there was 8 of us that went like a couple days earlier. And here I am unloading my parents' van, going onto campus. And I didn't know where I was supposed to go. And the 2 biggest dudes on the football team, they're both like 6'7", 6'8". I look like this lost little freshman. And they kind of picked up on that, and they could tell that like I was probably, looking for the locker room or whatnot. But like they helped unload my parents' van type of thing. Yeah. And they were seniors. And so like that was kind of the cool experience of it is I think a lot of us, as freshmen, you get to know the sophomores, the juniors, and the seniors. And then as seniors, you're getting to know everyone younger than you. And that was just a really cool experience, is that you just, I would tell people like, yeah, if you're borderline going out for football, I'm like, it's a great way to make some friends, and they're usually some quality dudes.
Yeah, I everything that I've heard about that culture, that football culture up there, is that he really understood and embraced the fact that the chances of the kids that he had playing for him going and taking it to the next level was really minimal. So how is he going to embrace teaching life lessons, and then all of these things that you picked up on, and from picking up the trash to helping somebody out on unloading a van or something like that is all translatable into life now, and those are lessons at the time you maybe were a little cognizant of the fact that they had such an impact on you, but now you look back on those. I mean, I can just see it in, for anybody who's watching this, you can see like this is a big part of your life, and I think that's just fascinating and amazing.
Yeah, it was a great experience, one I just really value today.
Yeah. Do you, so what was your first gig out of your first, let's say career job, real job, I'm air quoting here. What was your first career job out of college?
I worked as a financial analyst down at IBM in Rochester. And so at that time, they actually came onto campus at St. John's, and they were interviewing. And so IBM was actually bringing a lot of their financial analysts all over the world to Rochester, to that campus. And so they hired, I don't know, I think 10 alone just from St. John's, St. Ben's, but then I want to say like 100 kind of like recent college grads. So I worked down at IBM as a financial analyst for about a year. And then you want to know where that took me, I assume?
Yep.
Okay. So then that kind of brought me back to an internship that I had in college. And the internship was from a Johnny football alum. That was a connection. And so it was downtown Minneapolis, and the company was called DST Tasks. And kind of just a cool story on that piece is when I first interned there, I was like the 6th or 7th employee. So I did a summer, a winter, and a summer. So the first summer I was like the 6th or 7th employee. The winter I was like the 11th employee. And I came back for the summer. I was like the 20th. And, when you're small business, those are kind of like big numbers, adding just one more. And so I took this job down at IBM in DST Tasks. It was just growing and growing. So they recruited me to come back and, gave me a really competitive offer and a great role. So I left IBM in about a year to come back to this really, fast growing company. We did mutual fund sub accounting. Nobody's gonna know what that means, and that's okay. But the cool experience that's kind of related to the entrepreneurship is I saw these business partners grow it from kind of, we'll say, nothing to where eventually they end up selling it to a major corporation for millions and millions. And so just to kind of see that was just really cool to experience as the intern, to kind of just, every step. So I worked at downtown at DST Tasks for about 3 years. And then Go ahead.
Yeah. So one question, because I think I know where you're going to go from the TAS thing, because that's something I want to dig into a little bit more is your next step after TAS. So you saw all that stuff happening in that acquisition, and did that fuel you to and open your mind to what was possible for you as an individual, of being like, okay, I can see myself in their shoes someday doing this?
It did allow for me to experience that. Like in my experience before then, like what was happening was only we'll say the rich and famous, or like I've never seen anybody else do it. Like, so it was relatable. And, I kind of had this relationship with one of the owners. And so like, it was the first time that I understood, like, hey, anybody could do this. I don't think I at that point thought like I am capable of doing it, but here this guy is capable of doing it, and opened up my mind, where probably before then, if you would have asked me, I'd be like, oh, that's only massive corporations with big dollars that can kind of, start these businesses, which really wasn't the case for him. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you spent a few years at TAS. And so what did you do after transitioning out of TAS?
Yeah. So I actually knew from high school that I wanted to get into financial planning. And I know that's kind of strange, but I did a mentorship, and I fell in love with it. I was always interested in just even high school, and the accounting and the finance and the DECA and whatnot. And so I mentioned that because I had interest. And then when I went to St. John's, I explored more of the finance route. And there was a project to kind of do a deep dive on careers. And so I did one on financial planning. And so through college, I kept on interviewing and talking to financial planners, and just really, continued to fall in love and was more and more interested with the profession. But so they all told me not to get right into financial advising and financial planning right out of college. And so I was like, all right, I'm putting in my time. And then I was like, okay, I was 4 or 5 years removed from college. I'm like, I have to start getting into the financial planning side. I accepted a position with actually the place I mentored with in high school. It was my buddy's mom's firm, Kuski Financial, Mary Kuski. But I was, I don't know, I wanted to do something different before I got into like what I saw as my kind of like lifetime profession. And so I was really interested in volunteering. And so, with permission from Kuski Financial, I asked if I could take a couple of months off before my start date, because I wanted to explore volunteering. And so that led me into looking into all different programs all really throughout the US. And, I was trying to save dollars, and a lot of these volunteer programs that were going to be more than, a week long, like cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was like, I just don't have the dollars. I was like, I want to volunteer and it still costs all this money. Bring it back to St. John's. I was up at St. John's for a homecoming thing, and I was talking to Brother John. He's a monk up there, and I was just telling him kind of where I was at. And he's like, well, you should, if you're looking to volunteer, you should look at the St. John's Benedictine program. And I had no idea about it. It started the year I graduated, the year before college. And so I look into it, and these volunteers live in a monastery, Benedictine monasteries throughout the world. And I was looking at it, and I remember, like, first glance, I was just like, I mean, I'm Catholic, but I'm not that Catholic. I'm not doing that. And so I was like, no, thank you. And I kept looking for all these other things. And then, like, what kind of the reasons why I wanted to volunteer is I wanted to be kind of put in a spot where it was just, I kind of stuck out, and I wanted to see how I was going to handle that. And the more and more and through prayer, but it wasn't so much of my faith formation at that time. It was maybe more of a challenge that I felt like this is something that I want to do. And so I spent 2 months down in Guatemala at a Benedictine monastery. And that was, so I was side by side with monks, and, the kind of the requirement is you don't have to be, Christian or Catholic or whatever, but you have to be part of, like, it was like 2 or 3 of the 5 daily prayers. And that was just a great experience. Just, I volunteered in like schools, and it actually even helped the monastery with some of their accounting and finance, and kind of, they had some big volunteer, like, donors that I had to help with the finances. And so that was just a really unique experience. I didn't speak great Spanish, and so I would always go to sleep every night, just so, no more energy, just because just trying to speak a second language was so tough. But
yeah.
it was a wonderful experience that kind of helped build upon my faith. So it was something that I didn't think I would have ever would have done.
I feel like this is a cop out of a question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. But
Yeah.
what do you think was the top number one lesson that you pulled from that 2-month experience down there?
That's a very good question. And I've heard it on some of your other podcasts too, is like just the importance, we'll call it, like, prayer, reflection, meditation. And so, like, kind of forced into doing these prayers in silence. I was never really okay with silence. And so that was the first thing, like, hey, things become a little bit more clear, right? And not if you're always talking to God, but you're just like thinking through things. And so that was I would say, like, the biggest kind of takeaway is that you get clarity through silence and through prayer and all of that. So, yeah.
So I got to imagine that had an impact now on how you operate your life now, right? Whether it be in prayer or being able to understand and respect silence in a little bit of a different way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I am much more okay with silence, and have realized that, like, a lot of, some of my best ideas, not even like business ideas, just like family ideas or personal growth, just come through that silence. Now it's a lot harder to find that silence today than it was when I was single and didn't have kids.
Right.
But
yeah. We'll get to that family stuff, because that's a whole nother that we could have a podcast on the amount of kids that we have. So
this is
which
true.
is good.
This is true.
Hey, let's take a quick break and hear about a few of our supporters.
If you're an entrepreneur or married to one, you likely have a shared vision on your future, but there's uncertainty on how to get there. That's where the team at eWealth Partners comes in. They see you as a dynamic duo, and as fiduciaries, they're committed to helping dynamic duos like you design a financial plan that aligns and empowers you. Navigating the entrepreneurial journey shouldn't add stress to your relationship. It should be fun and exciting. Visit ewealthpartners.com to learn how they help couples like you plan for their financial future today. eWealth Partners, holistic financial planning for entrepreneurial couples. Investment advisor services offered through AdvisorNet Wealth Management. eWealth Partners and AdvisorNet Wealth Management are not affiliated.
When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at BoulayGroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. Listen, people, everyone needs a bank. Not just any bank, a good community bank. From personal needs like checking and savings accounts to business services like financing and M&A support, the team at Flagship Bank is there to provide you with the assistance you need so you can spend less time thinking about your finances and more time enjoying what your money can do for you. To learn more, head over to flagshipbanks.com. That's flagshipbanks with an S.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Flagship Bank, investing in you. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to help guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. Okay, back to the show.
So, so you spent a couple months there, and then you were, when you came back, this is a kind of a funky time so we're dealing with a recession. So this is 2009 ish, right? 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So I didn't know if they were going to revoke my job offer. So I started April 1st of 2009. The market bottomed out in March of 2009. And so here I am thinking, like, here's my lifelong profession career. And it was just a really scary time. Everybody was afraid of the markets, and the earliest conversations, I wasn't seeing clients, but I was, kind of like an associate advisor. And so much of the conversations was regaining trust in the markets, regaining trust in the plan. And it was just a really just kind of weird time to come into a profession where, the clients have seen their accounts down 30, 40, 50%. And so much of what we did was, well, I'll call it like hand-holding, is just saying, like, we have faith in, and we have options of how we're going to handle this, and kind of planning out different scenarios. But it was a really interesting time historically. I always jokingly say, like, if you look at when I started April of 2009 until now, like, it's been straight up. And so the journey has kind of been different since then. But so that was, it was an interesting time to start.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, if the market hit rock bottom on March 1st and you started on April 1st, well, at least you're on the upswing a little bit, even though at the time it didn't feel like it. But yeah, to your point, at least it's going in the right direction, right?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't know it was the upswing at that point. But yeah, it was such a crazy time.
So what fueled you then to go and start SBI Wealth Management? So that was your first foray into entrepreneurship yourself, going out on your own, which is always scary. We talk about it with Coalition 9 all the time, just about how entrepreneurship, leadership itself is lonely. You decided to jump into the deep end of the pool. What fueled that decision?
Yeah. Even when I went into Kusky Financial, it was always important for me to obtain ownership, and I'm willing to work for that ownership. Mm-hmm. And earlier on, it looked like things were going to progress that way, and then it didn't move that way. It moved a different direction, which they reserve the right to kind of go any direction that they want. And that was kind of the piece that kind of, I'll say, somewhat forced me out, because I was starting to I passed the CFP, or I was just about to pass it. I was starting to, like, build my book, and I didn't want to build it somewhere where I wasn't going to be able to kind of run my own business. And I've always, you asked me the question about entrepreneurship, like, where maybe at that moment did I think a task that I could build something as crazy big as that. I didn't think maybe that was possible, but I always thought, like, when I was younger, that I would, own a sports restaurant type of thing like that. Like, I always wanted to have ownership. And so, like, I was very open to the idea of starting my own thing. It was very scary. And so the piece was like, I saw I was moving a different direction. And so I jumped ship. And so I started my own financial planning firm. When was it? October of 2011. And so my dad has a tax practice, SBI Tax and Financial, that we shared offices. We were separate entities. And some of, like, my earliest kind of, like, bigger clients came from the tax side. But it was literally building it from the ground up. And there was some very, very scary moments in those early years.
But I have to believe that there's a little bit of if it had to feel kind of good, right? To be sharing an office with your dad, at least having, even though he wasn't a financial partner in the business, at least, there's that relationship that's been built just over the years of just being able to walk across the hall at least and be like, hey, wow, let me just run something by you here, so that you're not just sitting there wallowing in your own thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been a beautiful thing to kind of just been in, the same office with my dad for these last 10 years and have him support me. So it's been great.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into, I'm not going to dig into what SBI does, because I think what's really exciting is what you're doing here moving forward with eWealth Partners. And I kind of alluded to that at the beginning. So, so this is your new venture, and I'd love to talk about, like, what are you bringing to the market with eWealth Partners, and then two is, what do you see the future hold for this service offering?
Yeah, eWealth Partners is something that I really started thinking about. Gosh, it was probably 6 years ago. And that is actually so eWealth Partners is financial planning at its core, but serving entrepreneurs and their spouses and understanding the complexities that entrepreneurs and their spouse go through. And so what I was finding was, like, kind of the gap, we'll say, is, a lot of other kind of, we'll even say, financial planning firms will speak to the entrepreneur, the business owner, but they don't always, invite the spouse to the table. And what I found is, from my business owners, the entrepreneurs, is like, when you get the two of them aligned, and even with my own wife as an entrepreneur, like, yeah, she's not a partner in the business, but like, I tell her everything, like all the highs and lows. And I know the importance of just her support. And so what I was finding is, just these conversations working with what we're calling the dynamic duo, the entrepreneur and their spouse, is they usually have the same vision of where they want to go. But their concerns today are very different. But once you can address those concerns, then you better align them to kind of take off on that vision for the future. And so that was kind of the piece of why I wanted to launch eWealth Partners. eWealth is really targeting, like I said, the entrepreneurs and their spouse. What brought me to the introduction to you, Aaron, was actually Kate DeLeo. I'll give a shout out to her, because she helped me kind of really build this brand and identify what it looked like. Because I never, she's like, well, what does a client look like? And so, like, I would start thinking through that. And so, through her help, I'm like, okay, we want to serve, I'm 38. Like, I kind of say that the entrepreneur couple in their 30s, 40s, and 50s probably has a family, young family. The last maybe 10 years, or they basically took their business to the next level, and they've neglected to take care of some of those concerns over the last decade, because they're just trying to get the business up and running. And so that's kind of the focus. And again, on my side of it is just really understanding the different complexities. So I insert myself oftentimes into their shoes of, like, okay, when do we reinvest into the business? When do we invest into retirement accounts? When do we invest into, like, we call it alternative assets, or like real estate? And just kind of like plan that out and understand, like, what are the concerns that we would have, and again, getting the kind of the couple on the same page. Now, what it will look like in the future, we're a team of 4 right now, and we run on EOS traction. So, like, we kind of vision that out to, we want to be like a boutique firm of, let's say, 10 to 12 staff, 2 to 3 advisors, 2 to 3 junior advisors, but really kind of focusing on that entrepreneurial couple, or what we call the dynamic duo. And it's something that I am extremely passionate about. It is something that I really enjoy, and we get to connect with a lot of great people and understand, like, their lives, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's the deepest part of a relationship, right? Is when you're able to talk about everything in pure transparency. So a couple things I was thinking about in relation to this from an entrepreneurial couple standpoint. So what are maybe a thing? So so couples are thinking about engaging with someone like yourself or someone from your team, and they need to get on the same page, right? And so there's some questions they should be asking each other. What are a couple of questions that couples should be asking each other as they prepare to go into the conversations with you or with someone on your team?
That's a very good question. I would say is like, what do you want life to look like? And so like kind of like vision, like what does that look like? Just and talk me maybe even through like the experience part of it. Because once we understand that, then we can get very technical and solve. And so it's really is I'll say is on my side kind of as basics is understanding what the short term and the long term, like what does an ideal life look like? And we'll figure out, if it doesn't go according to plan. That's the beauty of what we do. But so it'd be that question of like, what do we want life to look like today and in the future? And then we in my team will help figure out, okay, well, then this is the route that we have to take. These are the action items that we have to do. That would be one. And the other one is like I kind of like hinted at before is, and oftentimes this happened, but like just respecting the other spouse's concerns, because they can be very different from that entrepreneur that wants to pour all their dollars into the business. That might be very different from that spouse that's just like, I'm just afraid, like, we're not going to have enough money to, put our kids through college, or, you can pay the bills like next month. And so just kind of being real with that and really kind of, like you said, be transparent and just like what's important and what keeps them up at night.
Yeah. Is there a certain net worth or income range or revenue amount or something like that it makes sense to engage with someone like yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I say for how our firm operates is we always do discovery calls and initial consultations at no charge. So like I always say, like, you're going to get some guidance whether we work together moving forward or not. And so like, I just want to invite people to the conversation. And if it's not a good time now, then maybe it would be in the future. What we see, and that's like working again with Kate, is kind of identifying like who typically works with you. And it's not always the case, but a lot of times their biggest asset is now their business. And so their business might be more worth than their house. Right. And so we don't have like you have to be a certain net worth or a certain income or whatever. We can charge a flat fee. We can charge on investable assets. So if someone says, hey, I still want guidance, but I'm going to be putting all my money into the business. Well, then we can determine, we basically just have a tool that determines the complexity. And so in saying that is we have a minimum fee based off of complexity, but it's not a minimum net worth or minimum income, right? They just would have to find value in that fee, which I think a lot of our clients do.
Sweet. Well, I think the work that you're doing is super well needed. I know, I value that perspective and people that are pros and doing what they do, like yourself, is something that you're part of the big three in my world, right? So I think having a relationship with a financial planner, having a relationship with a CPA, and then having a relationship with a banker is every entrepreneur's like kind of dream three, and no decision should be made without running it past all of them.
Absolutely. And that's a big part of what we do too, is we want to connect with those other bankers and CPAs and, attorneys and all that stuff. Yeah. So we help kind of quarterback that. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So before we get into 9 questions, I want to talk about your family, because I know your family is very important to you, and you're almost creating your own football team over there with the amount of kids that you have. So talk to me a little bit about your family.
Yeah, we're working on that football team. My beautiful wife, Cassie, we got married in 2014, and we have our 5th child on its way. And just any day, May 9th is the due date, but my wife thinks that she's going to go early. We have Cecilia, who's 6, Mila, who's 5, Xavier, who's 3, and Gianna, who's 2. And so I always tell people, kind of like at home, I just try to survive the day. In business, like I like in financial planning, it's more visioning, but just trying to survive the day is kind of what it feels like. But we wanted a big family, and that's what we have. It's chaotic, but it's I don't know. I love being a father. That's important, kind of to what defines me, father and husband. So
yeah, I love it. You're that's pure chaos with future to be 5 kids under the age of 7, which is like completely bonkers. But it is bonkers. Cheers to you, man. Cheers to you.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a few more of our supporters. United Healthcare believes there's no limit to what care can do. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.3 million care professionals and 6,500 hospitals and care facilities, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting you to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. Go to uhc.com for healthcare plans, resources, and more information. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. If you're anything like me, you know enough to be dangerous when it comes to finance, yet need some help when things are complicated. All-in-One Accounting provides the right financial expertise and leadership to align with your stage of growth. From outsourced accounting and bookkeeping to strategic financial planning, the team of accounting rockstars at All-in-One Accounting are passionate about positively impacting the lives of their clients. Check them out at allinoneaccounting.com. All-in-One Accounting, taking our clients from financial chaos to business clarity and beyond. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. And back to the show.
All right, we are going to dig into the 9 questions. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
No idea.
Yeah, and is this the part you're most excited about?
Yeah, I gotta tell you quickly that I was like, I'm kind of the type that I'm gonna listen to all the podcasts and and write down all the questions that he asked and then have an answer. Maybe if I would have carved out some more time, or if I would have done that, but so I'm a little nervous, but
we'll see how I do. I like everybody, I'm gentle, so I will not go too crazy here, and I'm not going to ask you any hard-hitting questions that are going to make you squirm.
Sure.
So we'll start out with an easy one. What was your favorite TV show as a kid?
Oh, Saved by the Bell, for sure.
Which character was your favorite? That's the question.
Probably Zach.
1B. Zach?
I don't know. Yeah, probably Zach. Yeah.
Well, he did have a cell phone.
Yeah, he had a cell phone. And he had great hair. Although it was more like Slater, just as far as athletics. But what a great show.
Yeah, it is a good show. I actually have more appreciation for that show now than I did then.
Oh yeah, I should rewatch it.
Yeah. What is one thing that you own but you wish you didn't?
I don't know. My mind is kind of taking me like probably somewhere with like technology. I appreciate technology, but it tends to consume us. And so maybe it would even just be that, like removing some of the technology around the house. That's what comes to mind. But that's just the piece of it. I really appreciate what technology can do, but it keeps us from doing other things too. So
do you guys own a smart speaker?
We do.
Yeah,
we love that. We do some dance. That's one we're gonna keep, okay? Because that's where we do our dance parties. So
all right, good. Well, I hear you, man. Maybe you just need to go back and revert to a flip phone.
That'd be kind of fun.
All right, do me a favor. Close your eyes. What is your favorite smell?
Banana bread. My wife's banana bread is killer.
Yeah, that's a good. You knocked that one out too. You had that one ready to rock and roll. Maybe you heard me ask that question before.
Yeah.
What is one thing on your bucket list?
I would say Hawaii. And we were gonna go. We're considering Hawaii for our honeymoon. I ended up going to Aruba, which was great. And now just with young kids and that long flight, I'm just like, will we ever get to Hawaii? So it's nothing crazy or wild, but it's just a place that just looks, really beautiful and just kind of active. And yeah, nothing, I don't really have anything crazy on my bucket list at this point.
Yeah. All right. Yep. You're still young.
Yeah.
We all are. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Genuine, funny, and competitive.
Yeah, I love it. I would agree with all 3 of those as I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years. What is a guilty pleasure that you indulge in?
Probably just how much I follow sports. I'm a guy that always has to check out the box score of every single Twins, Vikings, Timberwolves game. We don't have cable, so I don't even get to watch most of them. But I just, I grew up opening up the paper and looking at box scores. I don't know why I was so into it, and I still kind of do that today.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. It's very nostalgic for me too. It makes me remember the days when I ran a fantasy football league and I would have to score all that stuff manually on Sunday and Monday morning and then send it out. So I love looking at box scores.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is one quality in a person that impresses you?
Authenticity. And that's actually one of our core values that we have in our business. Is how we describe that is who we are at work is like who we are at home and who we would be if a client invited us over for dinner. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's just a big piece of like being real. And, obviously we're going to surround ourselves around those people that are real, but they're also very quality, but, just authentic. I just think it's such a cool thing to see, like, this person never turns it off because this is truly who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Great answer. What do you do to keep yourself grounded?
Prayer, probably, we'll say prayer is number 1. Mm-hmm. And then number 2 is, man, just having young kids, they keep you pretty grounded, wiping butts and cleaning up, spit up and all that stuff, and not taking yourself too seriously. You really have to be selfless. Like, you don't get a ton of time to yourself. So that kind of can keep you grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How do you define happiness? Maybe tough.
That's one question, right? That I was like, if he asked this, tough to explain. And I did think about this one a little bit. I don't know if I can say it as eloquent as I'd like, but happiness is where you are satisfied where you've been, but curious and excited to what's in front of you. I don't know. That's just something that I was like, and happiness, contentment, and just kind of like excited for what's ahead of you. So
I don't know, man, that was pretty damn eloquent. And I actually thought to myself, we gotta snip that and use that for something, because I'll tell you, that was fantastic. And so of all the explanations I've heard around happiness, that is probably one that I align with the most. And I appreciate that. That is a great answer. Brian, so you knocked 9 questions out of the park. So
okay, good.
Your homework worked out for you. Good. So congratulations on that. I gotta tell you, man, like, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you. You were like one of the first people to become a member of Coalition 9, and you're a huge champion for what we're building. You're a community supporter, which means the world to me. You have no idea. I can't even explain to you my appreciation for that. So thank you so much for being on here, and then also to just being a part of our community and just doing the good things that you're doing to make society a better place.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you, Aaron. What you have built has been something so special, and I am eager to tell others. I mean, I still remember that day when you were essentially interviewing me, and I said, well, what makes your group different? And, high character people, I think you led with, and all ships rise, like those two is just like resonated. And really, that's, at least with our group, is we really have that. And it's been such such a cool thing to be part of community. And that's really important to me in so many ways. So thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, you bet. Before we say goodbye, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so whatever, LinkedIn works. You can find me, Brian Adamek. You can email me, b@e-wealthpartners.com. You can give me a call. I'm more than willing, and if I can help someone out, get in contact with me.
So I will have all of your links hot linked into our show notes. So regardless of what platform people want to listen to this, we can hot link your email address and your LinkedIn profile. So it's much easier for people to get a hold of you. So on behalf of Brian Adamek, this has been the Power of Nine podcast. I am your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.